I recently unboxed a giant pile of vintage Apple gear, including a PowerMac G5 and an Apple Cinema HD display from 2003. Unfortunately, I didn't have everything that I needed to get them all set up, but today, that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's clean everything up, install macOS, and check out the ultimate pro Apple setup from 2003. Today's video is sponsored by Glasses USA, a leading retailer in prescription lenses and more. Hi, I'm Cool Luke, and I'm here to tell you about Glasses USA. They make your online shopping experience as easy as possible. You can choose from a selection of lenses and coatings such as anti-scratch, UV protection, polarized sunglasses, or even blue light filtering glasses like these, which are great if you, say, edit a lot of YouTube videos. More broadly than that, though, these are great if you watch TV, if you use your phone a lot. I mean, heck, let's face it. In these times, most of us are stuck at home staring at a screen all day for work anyway, and this makes it a lot less straining on the eyes. You can fill out your prescription online if you remember it, or if you don't, you can use their prescription scanner app and your phone's camera to extract the details of your prescription from your current glasses in just a few simple steps. They also have a really cool virtual try-on feature that lets you upload any image, like this definitely real and not at all fake photo of me and my good friend Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and it'll allow you to see what you actually look like with the different pairs of glasses on. It's really helpful. They have a wide selection of custom and third-party lenses and frames, and shipping is free on all orders. If you're not satisfied, you have 14 days to return for a refund, exchange, or 100% store credit. So head to the description below and check out Glasses USA today. The PowerMac G5 was launched in 2003 and at the time was one of the most advanced computers that money could buy. This was one of the only Macs to get the G5 PowerPC processor just 2 years before Apple decided that PowerPC was no longer viable. Even though it was near the end, the G5 was still significant. For one, this was one of the first 64-bit computers, which on its own was a big deal in 2003.
A 64-bit processor. It is the world's first 64-bit desktop processor. It's got 2 double precision floating point units. That's twice the G4. This thing is a floating point monster, as you will see. And massive branch prediction logic, which I don't know what it does, predicts branches. I don't know, but
it also has a design you probably recognize from the famous cheese grater Mac Pro. Yeah, this was launched in 2003, and the design carried on for 10 years. Talk about a winning design, and it still looks really good today. The Cinema display, meanwhile, was insanely high resolution for 2002. This is a time where most people were using CRTs, and here was the Cinema display with a flat panel LCD and a resolution of 1920 by 1200. These devices were basically the pinnacle of computing in 2003, but over the past 17 years, they've aged quite a bit and they're a little bit dirty. So why don't we start by cleaning things up and trying to restore some of that brand new glow. Really, the display only needed a light dusting. On the other hand, the PowerMac was really coated in dust. I decided to just do a surface level clean to try and get some of the static dust out of the inside of the case, and with that done, I polished off the outside, and then it was time to tackle the really nasty part. The keyboard and the mouse are absolutely filthy. The keycaps are literally brown. I don't even know how you get to this point. but I set out to fix it. I started by wiping the keycaps, and to be honest, it works pretty well, but the grime here is so baked in that I decided to just do it right. So I pulled off every single keycap and individually cleaned each and every key over the course of about an hour and a half. Don't say I don't put in the work for these videos. Wow, these are looking a lot better already. These devices are in really good condition, so it just took a little polishing to bring out that brand new shine. And now we get to the partially cool, partially infuriating, and oh so Apple part of this setup. You guys know Apple has always been about reducing wires. Well, they took an interesting approach with the Cinema HD display. Basically, there is only one wire. It's a very thick cord that's hardwired to the display panel. No other ports, no power socket. So how does it work? Well, this is no ordinary connector. This is what Apple dubbed the ADC connector. It stands for Apple Display Connector. Not super creative, I know. It's a combination of DVI, USB, and power delivery. In this case, it allows a single cord to connect to the G5's graphics card and carry a full HD signal, 75 watts of power, and 2 USB ports to the display. That's pretty sweet. Or at least it is if you actually have a Mac that's compatible with this connector. But let's say you bought the Apple Cinema display to use with, oh, I don't know, how about a MacBook Pro? This one has a DVI connector, so surely there must be a simple adapter that we can use and just plug this computer in pretty easily, right? Here's the adapter. Okay, it's massive. It's gigantic, because remember, the ADC handles power delivery as well, so this is basically a power brick in addition to an adapter. So we'll plug that in, and then we gotta plug the ADC into this, and then we've got, this one is DVI and then the USB pass-through. And then we'll plug those in, and now it works, which is great, but the whole one-cord solution, the minimalism is reduced somewhat. Fortunately for us, because we're using the display as it was intended, all we have to do is plug in the ADC connector to the back of the PowerMac. Wait, ADC connector just means Apple Display Connector connector. But it sounds weird to say plug in the ADC. I don't know. Next up, we need to get OS X installed on the PowerMac. These things shipped originally with OS X Jaguar, but it was a special version, so you can't use the retail install disks. So what I ended up doing is harvesting an old IDE hard drive from an iBook that had Tiger installed on it, and then I bought an IDE to SATA adapter, and we're in business. With all of these components, we now have the wonderful, glorious 2003 Apple Pro setup. And boy was this thing pro. When it was new, this setup retailed for $8,330 adjusted for inflation. Once you factor in Apple Care and taxes, this was easily a $10,000 setup, which is bonkers. But I have to say, I love the look of it. It's really quite minimalist for a 17-year-old setup. The whole thing only uses one power cord. That's more than you could say for a modern version of this setup with a Mac Pro and a Pro Display XDR. Pretty impressive. Thanks to the ADC, there's very little clutter and cables everywhere. Plus, we get some awesome integration with the monitor. For example, when you tap the capacitive power icon, it actually turns the system on. And once it's booted up, tapping the power button puts it to sleep. This is so unnecessary, but so cool. There's also a brightness icon on the left side of the display, but weirdly, it opens up the display system preferences pane. I guess that's useful. Beyond the clever buttons, the Cinema HD display is a masterpiece of design. Its integrated feet, clear plastic shell over aluminum enclosure, and even the ridged aluminum bezels look classy and retro cool. The display quality is also phenomenal for its age. It's bright, crisp, and the viewing angles are surprisingly good. This setup was really the cutting edge of computing 17 years ago. The G5 was simply the fastest personal computer in the world at the time. It had up to dual processors and exceeded speeds of 2 GHz. The G5 was a massive leap over the G4, but that itself posed a problem as Apple and IBM started to reach the limits of the PowerPC architecture. In 2004 and 5, the high-end dual processor and the final quad-core PowerMac G5 needed extremely complicated and very unreliable liquid cooling to keep the temperatures in check. The PowerMac G5 was a massive development for Apple, but it was really the beginning of the end for PowerPC. Fortunately, we were lucky enough to keep the beautiful design of this computer for a full 10 years as it got extended into the cheese grater Mac Pro. Unfortunately, however, the Apple Cinema HD display was redesigned with an aluminum enclosure that better matched the new design for the Power Mac and the Mac Pro, but I don't think it actually looked quite as good as this old design. This video was a ton of fun, and this was such an enjoyable setup. It was so cool to look at just the attention to detail on this rig, like the fact that you could turn it on with the capacitive power button on the display, or the fact that if you take the side panel off and then remove the plexiglass aero cover from the inside of the Power Mac, the fans start blasting at full speed because it knows that the airflow is compromised. The attention to detail, it's just wonderful. So that's the 17-year-old $10,000 Pro Apple setup. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Does it still hold up today? Does it look pretty good? Is it pretty modern, fairly minimal? As usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please consider following me on Twitter at Luke Miani, and don't forget to check out my Twitch channel and my subreddit, which you'll find linked in the description below. And while you're at it, why not head down to the link in the description and check out Glasses USA today? That's right, it's me, Cool Luke. I'm back again, and I'm not going anywhere. And with that, I'll see you all in the next video.